Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Olivia Gamber Podcast. And today I am going to bring Paul Kahn back to the table. I've had him on a few times on the podcast just because I like to bring in experts that I personally know and have worked with to show you the ropes. And it's been coming up more and more now, Olivia, and I've done the corporate thing. I'm ready to really go out independent on my own, but it just feels risky. I don't know where to start. I don't know how to package my skills. I don't know how to get clients. So I know there's so many distractions in how to start a business, whether it's, getting your social media platforms up, building a website, doing all the things. And I cannot stress enough, all of that is a distraction. You don't need any of that. In fact, you can get your first 3 paying clients without a website, without business cards, without an LLC set up, and I know because I help people do this every day, and today I brought Paul Kahn to talk you through it. He's a former client. We've worked together. I know not only has he landed six-figure clients, and he's an incredibly skilled keynote speaker. He's been on TEDx stages. He knows how to put together incredible coaching and consulting offers, whether it's B2B or B2C. So I wanted to bring someone that really would blow your mind and make this incredibly simple. Him and I really work together on a framework that we both have spent hundreds of thousands investing in coaching, consulting to master this process and getting multiple businesses off the ground now. And I can tell you this, what we're about to share through this training is the most efficient and profitable way to get your business off the ground. And I think it's so important to be thinking profit right out the gate so that you can get the money then to invest in the website, invest in the branding stuff. But the most important thing to keep that business successful is to validate that consulting coaching offer and get paying clients. So I'm about to go ahead and lead into a live training that we just facilitated. So you're going to hear that now, and I hope you enjoy the call. And if you are interested and you want our help, we'll share a little bit more at the end of this episode how you can work with us to secure your first paying consulting client. I hope you enjoyed the episode.
As I'm thinking about, as I was building this, I was thinking about, what is the united aspect for every single person here coming into, this workshop today. And I think the part that comes up for me as I think about that is the word more. More in terms of time, more flexibility, doing more of what you love, more growth, more money, more impact, more purpose. And I think for each and every single one of us, that have had the opportunity to be in corporate, I think you've been able to experience, yes, phenomenal growth, but also experiencing that there's a bit of a limitation in terms of how far you can possibly go with that. And so, what I realize is that there is this incredible world out there where, you can have all of that available to you on your terms. And so there's an incredible opportunity today to see how you can not only launch the business of your dreams, but be able to become immediately profitable very, very quickly. So, and as we jump in, this is the big goal, and this is my promise to you today, is that I'm going to share my roadmap to launch that I've used to launch multiple businesses, and for you to be profitable in 90 days. And the goal of it is to make it very, very digestible and to make it very simple, so that when you walk away, you can see, hey, like this is possible for me, and this is possible for me, not in the far future, but immediately, and starting right now. So let's dive right into that. So first of all, like, who am I? So I'm Paul Kahn, and I'm really, really excited here, to be with you today. I've worked with, as Olivia mentioned, multiple Fortune 50 companies. I've managed and built multiple seven-figure portfolios. I've worked with billion-dollar brands. I'm a TEDx speaker, spoken internationally as well as a keynote speaker, and I've worked with over 300 corporate and individual clients as well, from CEOs to Olympians to Fortune 500 companies all around the US. And I've been able to build multiple companies as well in very diverse industries. And the most important part that, I think I which is what I feel like, makes me really excited and appreciative to be here is that I've also left corporate. I know what that's like. I've replaced and exceeded my income not only once but twice. So I know exactly how it feels to be in your shoes right now because I have been there. And that's why I'm really excited because having been on the other side, I want to be able to share what's available to you and to be able to help you stretch your vision for what's possible in your life and make it very, very tangible for you. So jumping in, I wanted there to be a disclaimer. So, in terms of what that'll look like by the end of the webinar, you're not going to have your first client right away by the end of the webinar. But all of us, including myself, started with that next step. That next step for me initially was I just want a little bit of extra income. As you know, in corporate, you're kind of capped. Even though you might be on, some sort of structure with commission, you might be on some structure with bonus, you're still capped to a certain extent where you get to a point of like how much you work and how much you do, and you're capped at how much you can make and also how much you can squeeze in terms of time for yourself and as well as freedom to an extent of where you can be and how far across the globe that you could be and on what schedule. And so all that really changed for me, when I saw, a different possibility, because before I was in a place where I had nothing but upward trajectory for me working in these big Fortune 50 companies. I worked in a nice glass building. We were on the top floor. The largest retailer in Canada was my client. I was also working at the same time, 50 to 60-hour weeks. I did not have location flexibility. And so, when my father-in-law was diagnosed with cancer, me and my wife had to make some very tough choices and we had to be apart for 7 months. And that was really eye-opening. That was very, very difficult for me to swallow at that time of feeling like there was no other way because, there was no other type of possibility aside from just quitting my job at that point, which wasn't a possibility. And I didn't know what could be possible at that point. When I was on vacation, the time was limited. And I felt like I can never quite relax at the same time. There was always stuff waiting for me, kind of the monkey on my back there. And it was almost kind of like, I was just buying time before I had to go back to the tsunami that was waiting for me. I was also underpaid. And I can still remember that conversation with my manager where we were talking about how I should be paid more for my role. But because of HR constraints and policy constraints, there was just nothing they could do. And that was super, super frustrating for me because, not only did I feel like I was constrained financially, I also felt limited by the scope of my role because, at any moment, I also realized once we were doing these restructures and it started becoming something that was frequent, that I was also completely replaceable. And just what being in corporate meant in terms of the safety just wasn't there anymore. And I'm sure many of you have seen it, as it's come out in the news, Cargill just also let go of thousands of people. And so, what I realized is that I had put all my eggs in one basket. And if they decided tomorrow that they needed to make a business decision about my role tomorrow, I was completely at their mercy. And so I had a good friend, Matt and Isabella, and they had two very, very young kids. And what opened my eyes is that both of them left corporate and they were completely financially free. They had time and location freedom. They were traveling all across the world. They were living the life of their dreams and they were the happiest people I'd ever met in my life. And not only did they have two little kids, they didn't have that hold them back either. And so I looked at them and I said, I want that. Whatever that is, I want that. What is that secret sauce? And then I found myself attending a conference and it so happened to be a part of a seminar. And I met a coach for the very first time. I had never been exposed to coaches at that point. And I heard her talk about how she was able to turn her expertise and previous experiences into a multi-seven-figure business. And so I started, you know, being maniacal about it. And I started going and diving into it and doing the work. I was like, what is this going to take for me to make my very first 100K? And it seemed like this, very elusive number at that moment. Not that like, even though I was making that in corporate, to go out there and do it on my own seemed so daunting. And so I started breaking it down. Okay, what does that look like from a monthly basis? Okay, that's $8,333 a month that I got to make to attain that goal, right? So I started researching and learning multiple different kinds of strategies, and I was hiring coaches and doing different kinds of programs. I spent six figures, multiple six figures on just my own personal development. I was doing business coaching as well. And many of those tactics failed. But something that I, in that failure, learned was coming closer and closer to my tried and true method that I ended up using over and over again. And so, when I came across um, that moment, when I finally handed in my resignation and said, this is my last day, by the time I left corporate my very first time, I had signed my very first client. It was a 10K client in 90 days. The second time I left, I not only replaced my income, but I replaced my income and some more. And I ended up building a six-figure business, and I was making more than I ever did in corporate. I was working less than 10 hours a week. I was traveling around the world with my family, and I was working and way less than ever before. And I had more flexibility in my life to do what I wanted to do and focus on the things that I loved instead of bogged down by all these other things that I had to do. I could choose for the very first time. And so, my question to you as you look at that is, can you imagine what that looks like for you? What does amazing look like for you? What does more look like for you tomorrow? And so, as we dive into that, what I want to go through with you today is my proven 5-step framework, and we're going to walk through this roadmap together. 5 different steps that I was able to do and replicate over and over and over in order to land multiple clients, one after the other, that were multiple 5-figure, even 6-figure clients, of all different kinds of industries. And so, we're going to be going through step number 1, which is identity work. Number 2, we're going to talk about defining your value proposition. Number 3, validating. Number 4, direct outreach. And then the 5th part is we're going to be talking about the offer and the close. So let's dive right into it. So step 1. This is the most important part that when I was starting my journey that I initially completely overlooked. And I didn't realize how big of a shift it was, because my entire life I had been told from when I was very, very young what my future was supposed to look like. And maybe you might be able to relate to this. It's like, okay, you're going to go through education, you're going to go to, post secondary, you're going to go to university, you're going to come out, you're going to land a job with a huge corporation, you're going to work up the corporate ladder, you're going to work up to an executive level, you're going to have, this level of income, you're going to have the big house, the white picket fence, and the 3 kids or whatever. And there was an image of what I thought my life was supposed to look like. And it was ingrained to me in terms of what I should expect and what normal looked like. And something that I realized very quickly was that when I started seeing this other possibility of my friend Matt and Isabella that was living this life where they were financially and location and time free, was that there is a very distinct shift that I need to make from being a part of the corporate identity to an entrepreneur identity. And this is so incredibly core because the moment, and for all of you that are on this webinar right now, have this inkling, have this pull that there's something more that you want to do. But the thing about it is that there's a huge shift that you need to make, because up until now, your goal was to continue advancing your career within the corporate space. So, a lot of times, we've all sat down for those career conversations. Hey, what do you envision for yourself in the next 3, 5, 10 years? What do you see as your next developmental opportunity? And your entire life, in terms of from a corporate, in terms of a career standpoint, has been around this aspect of what do I need to do next? And what role is this specific job playing towards where I'm headed from a corporate standpoint? Well, when you are shifting and when you realize that, hey, this is not what I want anymore. What I actually want is the more vision that we talked about, more time, financial location freedom. The number one thing that needs to shift is your mindset around what your corporate role is playing in the grand scheme of where you're headed in your life. So instead of, hey, I need to do this right now, the time I'm spending over here, I'm pouring into this because I'm needed to advance my career. Now you're looking at it as, okay, I need to shift my identity to now expanding and start building the bricks towards my entrepreneur identity. And my job now is playing a different role. It's not now the be all end all. And I'm now every step I take, completely catered to that. How do I strategically shift my perspective to know that now my corporate job is playing a different role? It is buying me time. It is buying me the bricks that I can build one by one while I am building out my roadmap towards my entrepreneurial identity. And the time that I'm spending here, I now get to shift some of it towards that. And also in terms of my role, in terms of, how I'm immersed in my job, gets to now shift into an entrepreneur, which is now, hey, how am I expanding for the future for myself, not for the future of the company, which is a very distinct shift because we've been thinking, very much collectively around, hey, in my role, how am I going to further my company? Now you get to shift that and think, how do I get to further my vision? And the number one thing is making that shift and commitment to say, hey, I am choosing this vision for my future. I'm committing to it. And now I'm no longer teetering on both sides. I'm going to make the jump and start building the roadmap towards that and knowing that this still plays a role in my life, my corporate role, my corporate identity. But now it's serving a very different purpose towards where I need to go. So that's number one in terms of shifting identity. And the second thing that was most prominent that I see when I'm working with my clients as well as for myself was that imposter syndrome. It's like, okay, I've spent my entire life, working towards and building success in the corporate space. But the $1 million question is, can I replicate that success here in the entrepreneur space? And I love like a show of hands, whether it's a virtual hand or maybe in the chat around whether or not you can resonate this, whether or not you've had that thought of like, okay, I've created a level of success in corporate. Can I possibly replicate that same success here as well? Love to see in the chat, like who can resonate with that. Yeah, I see some thumbs up around that. So that is something that all of us face. And I have been in some rooms with some incredibly powerful people that have worked in the White House, people that have worked at NASA, people that you look at them and they are being paid by CEOs multiple six figures to be their corporate advisor or to be their consultant. And we were all sitting in this room. I remember this very distinct moment. And this coach said, who in the room has ever felt like an imposter or feels like an imposter in this room right now? And guess what? 100% of the hands went up. And so I'm sharing that because number one, you are not alone in that. Because no matter what space we're in, there's always that little voice within us that says, can you really do it? Yes, even though you've created that success over here, but hey, can you replicate it over here? Can you do it on your own? Hey, you've had teams and you've had resources in the past. Can you do it? Can you do it on your own? And so what I want to say, and the number one thing that you get to shift today is that instead of thinking to yourself or saying out loud, I have never done this before, or I'm new at this, or I am just building my business. I am, my experience in the space is, I'm still new in it. I want you to shift that mentality and know that you are not brand new. You are not a brand new consultant. You're not a brand new coach. You are not a brand new advisor. You have done this before. It just looked different. It was in a corporate space, but you were still undertaking the same things. You're still identifying problems. You were providing value. You were solving problems. You were, creating different processes. You were doing different things in order to create value. And it just looks different. Instead of, if you look at it, all of the people that you were serving, clients within the corporate space, you were just being paid in a different way to serve them. It wasn't through your LLC or your company, but you were still advising them and supporting them in the same way as you would be if you were your individual own consultant. And so all those skills are transferable. All those things you've been doing for decades already. So number one thing, if you take away anything from this webinar, I want you to walk away shifting your mindset that you are not an imposter. You've not only been here before, you've been doing this for a very long time. The only thing that's changing is what your environment now looks like. And not the stuff that's within, it's only the stuff that's outside of you. So the next piece of that we're going to talk about here is that after you really hone down and master that identity work, which is so important. I know everyone usually wants to jump into it because they're like, just give me the tactics and I want to start building and getting clients and building offers. But you got to build that foundational piece first, because what is inside of your identity and your mindset is like the engine that's going to run this business. The stronger your engine is, the faster you're going to go. But if your engine is all out of sorts and it keeps stalling, you're going to keep creating roadblocks ahead. And no matter, I can give you $1 million roadmap and the result would still be the same. And I know that because I've been there before. So after we master that identity work, then we can move into the tactics, which is the second part, which is defining your value proposition. And so the number one thing here, and I want to get a show of hands here around who here, as you're thinking about what you want to do next in terms of your business, you're thinking, hey, I got so many skill sets. I got so many different experiences. There's so many different things that I can do, like overwhelming amount. Like, what is the thing that I'm going to do? And maybe you were like, I can't even decide because like, I love like 5, 6, 7 different things. I can serve multiple different clients in these ways. Who has had that thought or is thinking that thought as you're thinking about that next step here? I love like a show of hands, or like a, yes in the chat. Who here has thought that? And that's the biggest thing. And, I'm sharing that because number one, and I see some raise of hand. Yeah, Abe there is raising your hand. Yes, I'm seeing some yeses in the chat here. Yeah, and that's the biggest thing is that the number one thing that I see a lot of my clients face whenever they're coming up against, really getting into the tactics of the business and starting to build out their business, it's against analysis paralysis. It's almost like you have so many things that you can do that you end up doing nothing at all because you get pulled in multiple different directions. So the most important thing that we get to tackle next is really defining what is the one thing that you will be known for. And I want you to kind of give some thought to that. And so, you can list out all the things that you're good at, but it's not that you can't serve clients in that way. It's not that you can't provide that solution or provide that offer. But when you are known as a jack of all trades, you're a master of none. And the problem with that is that when you are starting out your business and you're talking to people about what you offer, if you don't clearly define the one thing that if they walk away thinking, hey, if I see A, I know that Abe is known for this, right? Then the problem is that if they come across prospective clients, even if it's not them, they don't know to introduce you or think, hey, I'm going to refer them to Abe. I'm going to refer them to Bill. I'm going to refer them to Renee because they're not clear on what exactly you do. And that is the number one thing that I see is the biggest detriment to those that are especially shifting from the corporate space and starting the business is because they want to do everything. And so I want you to think about what is that one thing that you are an expert on? The one thing that you love doing, that if you can only pick one thing, not that you can't do anything, but I want you to pick one. That if they walk away after a conversation with a stranger, they think back to your name, they will think that one thing. That's when you know that you've landed your message, you've landed your value proposition. And the great thing about that is that when they have that problem down the road, they know exactly who to call. When they come across someone else who has that problem, they know exactly who to refer to you and not to refer to you. And so the other aspect of that, is really honing down on, those million different things, right? Just because it could be, really, really noisy. It's like, well, there's so many things. How am I supposed to pick? Well, here's the really beautiful thing. And I want to share this piece with you. It was a huge game changer for me. And, often in corporate, things move pretty slow, right? You got to like talk to a million different people, have a bunch of council meetings, make decisions, go 3 steps up, 3 steps down, go sideways, synergize, come back. And 4 months later, you come up with a decision. That's not how it works with entrepreneurship. And the most powerful thing that my coach told me is that she said, Paul, you can be a relationship coach on Friday and you can be a business coach by Monday. And guess what? Nobody cares but you. And I want to tell you that because as an entrepreneur, the most powerful thing is the thing that's going to move you forward is speed. Money loves speed. So the faster you can nail down and make a decision and move in the direction and the faster you can pivot, the faster you're going to start being profitable. Because if you start being like, well, I need to decide and make a bunch of charts and pros and cons about what I'm going to do. When you get into analysis paralysis, you're getting in the way of getting in front of your clients, prospective clients, and starting to serve them and having people pay you to solve their problems. You don't have to have it all figured out today. You just got to pick one lane, run with it. And maybe as you serve that one client in that one space, you're going to start realizing, hey, I actually don't really like this. Hey, in my second client now, as I'm looking for my second client, I'm going to start pitching myself in this direction because I realize I like this part, but not this part. You get to tinker it as you go. And guess what? You get to decide what you want to do. No one else. You don't have to consult anyone else. You don't need to people please with anyone else. And guess what? Also, nobody's paying attention as much as you are to yourself. So you can change on a dime. And that's a beautiful thing about entrepreneurship is that you get to pick, you get to run with it. But the most important thing is that you take action. And so the next part after you make that decision on, okay, what is my identity, right? What is that one thing that I get to be known for? I'm going to pick a lane and I'm going to run with it. I'm going to say, hey, I'm going to give myself 30 days. I'm going to run with this. I'm going to land my first client. Then I'm going to figure out how I get to tweak from there. The next piece after you decide on that lane is you get to go and validate it. One of the biggest mistakes that people make that I see, and I made this mistake myself, is I started going in and I built this massive website. I actually spent 2 months building a website. I was putting together logos. I was deciding what's the name of my company. And I spent so much time doing that. And I started thinking and brainstorming about this really elaborate offer that I was going to make. And lo and behold, nobody even wanted it. And that's the biggest mistake that I made. And I see so many new entrepreneurs make, is that they spend all this time trying to build the solution without validating whether or not anybody is even in search of that solution or even has that problem, right? Or most importantly, wants to pay for that problem. And that's a very, very key differentiator, because a lot of times people are saying, well, people have this problem. But the biggest thing is that when you go to people and you ask them, what's your problem? Number one, people might not know. So sometimes you got to build something and you got to get feedback, because people don't know what they don't know. It's kind of like when they were building out uh, a tomato sauce before. I don't know if you know the story about tomato sauce. They were asking consumers, what would you like to see in a tomato sauce? And they kept telling them, like all these different kinds of things. But then what ended up happening was that all the things that they were telling them that they wanted, when they were consumer testing it, nobody actually wanted that. So a lot of times people don't actually know what they want, but then all of a sudden someone's like, hey, I'm going to create a chunky version of tomato sauce. And they presented it to the consumer group. And guess what? They absolutely loved it, because a lot of times we can't really put into words what exactly we want. But the beautiful thing about that was that someone decided, hey, I'm going to create chunky tomato sauce. I'm going to create it, and then I'm going to test it, validate whether or not anybody even wants to buy it. So what I'd say around this is like, don't spend so much time trying to figure out, who am I going to serve? What's the solution I'm providing? How do I craft the perfect offer to get in front of the perfect audience? Get something out there, pick a lane, and then go out there and start talking to potential clients, people that are in that space, that are already working there, people that, might be prospective clients, or maybe are associated or work with prospective clients that you would like to work with. Get their feedback. Talk to them. Hey, I'm building together a program. I love your feedback. This is the people I'm looking to serve. Is this a problem that you would pay for to solve, right? And get that feedback. And the beautiful thing is that once you get that feedback, you can really then figure out, okay, is this, a good idea? Do I need to tweak it? And if not, how can I make, my solution something that you would feel is worth paying for, right? So after that, once you validate, you pick your lane, you define your value proposition, right? You have that one thing that you're known for. You validate it with people that that are in your circle. The next thing is direct outreach. And so a lot of times people think, okay, I got to have a marketing funnel, or I got to have Facebook ads, or I got to, how in the world am I going to find clients? But guess what? The beautiful thing is that they are already in this. They're already in the palm of your hand. Your network is going to be your net worth. And this was the most powerful thing, that when I started out my consulting business, people that were way further ahead of me told me, your first clients are going to come from your network. Whether it's someone that already knows you, that becomes your first client, or someone that knows you to introduce you or refers you to someone that they know, it's going to come from your network. So the most exciting part of that is that you don't have to do anything else. You don't have to spend the time to go out there and put out LinkedIn ads, or post a bunch of social media posts. That's not going to convert. That is for you to build your brand over time. And once you get to it eventually and you have deep pockets, yes, you can put out Facebook ads. But then there's strategies to what kind of service you're providing that customers will be willing to pay off of a Facebook ad. That's a whole other thing. The number one thing you need to focus on is outreach. So, my challenge to you is that once you get those pieces narrowed down, you want to be able to go through your network, people that make a list, and start reaching out and having conversations. Not with the intention of selling them anything. That's the most important part, because people can smell desperation from a mile away. You want to approach it in a way of like, hey, I got this product. I validated it. I'd love to get your feedback, right? Get them talking. Tell me a little bit more about your challenges. Tell me a little bit more about what you're up to, because I want to share what I'm up to, right? And the great thing is that once you start sharing, if they're a prospective client, they're going to say, hey, tell me a little bit more about that. I have that problem. And that's exactly what happened with one of the clients that I ended up signing. It was an $80,000 client. I was just having a conversation. I wasn't even planning on signing him as a client or selling him anything. I was like, hey, how are you doing? How's business going? And he started telling me about all these challenges he was having. And I was like, hey, look, you know, I want to be a little bold here. What if what if we got to work together? That's actually something that I'm building right now that might be able to serve you. He's like, okay, tell me more. And one thing led to the other. And the great thing is that through these authentic conversations in your network, people that already know, like, and trust you, you already have that fast track to signing your first client. You don't have to look further than that. You don't have to go and do LinkedIn outreach to a bunch of people you don't know. Start with your network. And so the next part, the last piece is that once you are reaching out to your network and you've had the conversations, right? The beautiful thing is that they are giving you data in these conversations. They're giving you data about their problems, what they need, what they want, and you are assessing as you go of like, is this person a good fit? And here's the thing, when you come across someone that's giving you that data and you know in your heart, I can help this person, I can serve this person, right? Even if the offer might have looked a little bit different from when you initially were approaching the conversation, is that you can now take all that data from that conversation and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to be a bit bold here because I feel like I can really solve your problem. And here's like, are you open to having that conversation, exploring that? And most of the time they'd be like, yeah, I've been losing sleep over this. One of the clients that I signed was saying, where were you 6 months ago when I was bleeding left, right, and center? I was praying for a solution, right? So a lot of times the person, that is waiting for you out there, they're just waiting for you to make an offer. And so use those data points and be willing to be nimble, be willing to be adaptive, to then take that and craft that into an offer for them and say, hey, this is how I can support you. Are you open to having more of a conversation? And that's exactly what I did with Jason. And so Jason was one of my clients, and when I met him, he was trapped in the hamster wheel. He was in corporate before, he was in real estate, and he absolutely just hated what he did, right? And he was making good money, but at the same time, he just felt like he didn't have the purpose in his life. He didn't have the flexibility to spend more time with his son, and he felt just so out of touch with, where he thought his life would be at that moment. He didn't, have that freedom that he thought he would have at that point. And so after we worked together, he left his job, he launched his business, and he signed his very first paying client as a consultant in 90 days. And now today, uh, Jason, shortly after we worked together, actually ended his lease in his apartment. He sold his car, and he's been traveling all around the world as a digital nomad, which was his dream, and runs an online business. And he's not tied to any place. He's been all over Asia, all over South America. And it's just so inspiring because now he gets to bring his son along with him to live his dream out with him instead of having to fit his life into this box that corporate or the business or, real estate was telling him he had to do. So that's what's possible when you're able to take those 5 steps and implement them so that you can start building that roadmap and start getting paying clients to be profitable in your business. So a lot of times, when I'm talking to different individuals that, like yourselves are like, hey, you know what? I have this aspiration. I have this dream. I really want to build my business. But one of the number one things I hear is, but it's hard to be profitable right away. It just takes so much money. It's going to take so much time. I don't know if that I can replace my income. So here's the thing is that this is a huge misconception that most people think this is what you need to start a business. I need a website. I need a logo. I need funnels. I need a lot of capital. I need a business plan that's like 20 pages long. I need Facebook ads, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Hard pause. You don't need any of this. You don't need any of this, not just to get started, but to start getting your first paid clients, multiple 5-figure paid clients, even 6-figure paid clients. I've met some individuals that don't even have a website and they've built multi-million-dollar businesses. You're like, how is that possible? Well, it's because all these things, if anything, it can be clever procrastination. You think that you're doing busy work to build your business, but actually in reality, that the most important work that you can do is talk to prospective clients to keep putting offers out there until you land clients. Because it really is, it's like this giant experiment. So when you follow the 5 steps, when you have, that identity work that, is going to be a continual process, when you're validating your proposition, when you validate it with prospective clients, right? Or people that work with prospective clients. You're reaching out directly to those people, right? You're taking the data that they're telling you and you keep making offers and closing. That's all you need to do. This does not take a lot of capital. It doesn't even take, I'd say, much money at all. And the great thing is that you can do it right away. You don't need to do all those things and have all the fancy stuff to look good, to look legit. People just want to know at the end of the day that they're working with a real human that they know, like, and trust, that they know can solve the problem that they need a solution for. And that's it. The second aspect is I hear people say, it's hard to find clients. Where am I supposed to look for them? I don't know where to go. It's really overwhelming. When I work with my business, my corporate job, there's already clients that are there. I'm just working with them, right? Or maybe there's a system. I have a sales team, right? All that kind of stuff. Well, here's the thing is that you already have everything you need. Like I said before, you already got this. This is the only thing you need. You have Facebook, you have Instagram, you have LinkedIn, you got contacts on your phone. You probably have, no, I'm going to say you have $1 million, over $1 million worth of prospective clients on this right now in your hands. And that's all you need. And the only thing that is in the way of you signing your first client is not only, getting clear and validating all those things, but it's making an offer. It's reaching out. It's picking up the phone. It's reaching out to people. That's the scariest part of, like, oh, I don't want to look bad. And, I'm scared of what they'll think of me. And, I don't want to ask for too much, but guess what? You're only going to make a sale if you ask, right? And the worst thing you're going to get is a no. But it all starts with a question. It all starts with an ask, right? And so you have everything you need, and you have tens of hundreds of clients that are already waiting for you. If not, people that directly are on your phone, people that are connected to people on your phone. The great thing is that when you build that out, when you serve one person, they start, through word of mouth, right? Start building. And that's how I built my business. I did need to have all those really fancy things. It was just one person that would tell another person about what I was doing in their business. And if you're creating great work, you're going to continue to have a pipeline of clients. And the last piece is that I've been in corporate my whole life. I don't know if I can make it as an entrepreneur. And that's the part that I know I tackled with. It took me 4 years to do the official, okay, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to commit to this. I'm going to put in my resignation. I'm officially going to go and pursue my dream. And I get it. It can be terrifying. It can be scary because you're like, well, can I do it alone when I've been used to big teams and resources and budgets behind me and all that kind of stuff? And, I have a family, all that kind of thing. But what I want to leave you with here is believe in yourself. You have it within you. You've been here before. You've been doing it. Think about every single role that you've taken on in your corporate life. The new role, the first time you step into it. You've never done it before. But did you ever think, no, I can't do this at the interview? Obviously you didn't, or else you wouldn't have gotten the job. You were able to draw that confidence from within you to tell yourself, you know what? I may not know everything, but I'm going to figure it out. And so you've been here before. It's the same thing. It just looks different. It's a different environment. But the number one thing and the most important thing that you can do for yourself that's going to really determine your success is whether or not you believe in you, right? So that's the number one thing you get to walk away with today is knowing that you can do this. The only thing that's in between you and that business that you dream of is the choice to believe in yourself and the choice to choose that path. So with that said, I just want to ask you a question. How many of you feel like this right now? Like you've been drinking from a fire hose. I know I've been talking a million miles per minute. I've been throwing a bunch of the stuff at you. It kind of feels a little bit like that. It's like, oh my God, this is a lot. There's a lot of things where I get started, like where do I start? All this kind of thing, right? And so with that said, we've been together for about 43 minutes now. It's really hard to be able to pack everything in, right? Within 60 minutes. And so that's why, me and Olivia, we kind of had this conversation and we were excited about, hey, what if there was a way for us to continue this conversation, right? How many of you would be interested? I'm just curious, show of hands. Like how many of you would be interested to continue the conversation and kind of see hey, what could this look like beyond this, right? So I see some hands. Awesome. So the great thing is that we've put together a special package and it's called Launch the Prof. And it's a way for you to implement this within 90 days. So do you mind if I spend a minute just to go over with you about the package called, that we call Launch the Profits? Just quick thumbs up for you. Yeah, I see a few thumbs up there. Okay, awesome. Great. So I'm just going to go through that in terms of what that looks like. So, with Launch the Profit, when me and Olivia were brainstorming together, is about like, how can we serve people right now? There's so many people that are, in this space, and whether they're in their corporate jobs and they're miserable, or they're thinking, oh man, like there's something missing, right? But they want to take that step, but they don't know where to start. Or maybe they're in the space of, they're transitioning between roles, and they're in this like crossroad of like, do I go back to corporate and, take on another role, or do I finally go and carve out my path, right? So what is the number one thing? And the thing that we came up with, that we both landed on, was, how do you launch your business and get to profits right away? That's the biggest thing, right? It's like, how do you replace your income? How do you start getting paid? How do you start being profitable? So the thing about it is that we looked at is multiple different things. So one is, you're going to get access to an online course. And I'm going to lay out the roadmap of everything that I've done up until this point, out for you. You're going to have lifetime access to that. And the other aspect was ensuring that you have one-on-one support for myself, to customize, and for us to go through things that, are unique to you, right? As you go through it, having that support along the way, sometimes maybe that's that gentle, loving kick in the butt. Sometimes it's cheering you on. Sometimes it's strategizing together, right? Of like, hey, how do I tweak what I have, my messaging, my value proposition, my messaging as I'm doing outreach, all those different things. And the other really important aspect is the weekly group calls. You need to have a community, and you can't do this alone. I mean, you can, but the process is painful, because here's the thing, you're going to get into it. And for many of you that maybe have been in that process of job search before, right? You go into it, right? And you're reaching out, and you get bogged down, and you get maybe, rejected, and you're like, oh man, this doesn't work. I can't do this. Or see, I mean, nobody's biting, or like nobody's responding to my messages, or like, oh, I just don't know why this isn't working. And when we're in this alone, we start getting in our own heads. And the beautiful thing about being in a community with other people that are doing the same thing with you at the same time, in a non-judgmental space, that are supporting you, is that you get to draw from the energy and the belief of others in this process with you, for you to go further, right? If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So that's really the aspect that we felt was so crucial, was having that group support. As a bonus, we also have two different things that we're really, really excited to share. Number one is a masterclass on landing speaking gigs. So I know many people that I've talked to, they're really interested in like, hey, I want to launch this business, and I'd love to become a keynote speaker, right? How do I get paid to speak? Or how do I land more clients through speaking, right? We're going to have a masterclass. This is a bonus that I'm going to be hosting and sharing with you the exact roadmap that I use to land speaking gigs internationally, domestically in the US here, and be paid to speak, and also land clients through speaking. And the other bonus that is really, really exciting is a mindset session with Olivia. Olivia has built multiple seven-figure businesses, and she's been incredibly successful at what she does. And the beautiful thing that Olivia does, that she's so masterful at, is the mindset aspect, right? So how do we set you up for success on this journey, so we get you fast-tracked into, this process, and get you, diving in and shifting that identity quick. So the lifetime access course, that's a $2,000 value. The one-on-one calls, that's $2,000 value. Weekly group calls, that's a $3,600 value. And the two master classes, but $2,500 for the master class and $800. So total value of all of that is $11,900. Okay, that's the total value of all of that. So I want to ask you one thing, right? Which is, I need to ask you a question around a load here. So if all this program, all it did was, you finally launched your business with a product offer in 90 days, would it be worth it? If it helped you build a pipeline of potential customers as you're launching in your first 90 days, would it be worth it? The last aspect is, if it gave you the ability to leave corporate with a plan that you're confident behind, that you're excited about, so you're not feeling like you're just jumping and building the plane as it goes, would it be worth it? Right? And so with that said, this is all that you're going to get, right? This is the value of it. And if you answered yes to it, this is all that you're getting. But of course, we're not going to be charging you for that. That's not going to be the value of it. And just for this masterclass, for especially this cohort, we're really, really excited. If you are saying like, hey, this is the path for me, I'm ready to get going, and we're going to bring in these two bonuses as well for you, we are lowering the price for this cohort to $49.99. And that's to get started. with myself and Olivia in January, 15th. We really wanted to make it accessible for people. We know that there's many of you that have that dream out there that are like excited, for what's possible for you. And you're like, yeah, I just need to, a little bit of strategy. I need to know how to do it. I need a community behind me. Well, guess what? This is the perfect time to do it. And we're, lowering this price, especially for this cohort for the very first time. And if you're excited to get started, you can go onto the link here, which is www.careerevolve.com/business and book a call with Olivia. For us, the most important part is fit. You want to make sure this is a fit for you. So even if nothing else, decide that the program's not a good fit for you, we want you to walk away at least with clarity. And that part we can definitely, ensure that you're going to have, right? Around clarity around what's the next step. Is this the right path for you? If you're feeling like, hey, this is something that is calling you, that you're interested in, go into that link there, book a call with Olivia. After you have that call and have that conversation with Olivia and you want to move forward, awesome. We're going to get you signed up. We're going to get you going, really excited, for the January 15th launching 2025, in a big way with a big bang. And that's going to be awesome as well. You're going to have that strategy session with Olivia. So also maybe some of you are thinking like, yes, I really want this, but I'm just like not really sure about like, how am I going to finance this? Or, this seems like a bit much, especially during this time of year with Christmas and things like that. We completely understand that. And the really exciting thing is that we've partnered with a firm to create a payment plan. So the really exciting thing through a firm is that we've been able to put this together to offer to our clients where you can go through a firm. It's subject upon approval for each person. But the really exciting thing is that through a firm, you can get pre-approved for them to basically fund this, and you are split up into payment plans. I believe, Olivia can correct me if I'm, there's a bunch of different ones. It could be 12 months, it could be 24 months, and they could be split up into really, really, really accessible amounts. So I know, and Olivia, you can jump in around, I think I've seen some of even the payments around like 150 a month, very, very, yeah, I think she's nodding there. Very, very accessible in terms of like making this work for you. For us, we want to provide, the solutions. We want to make sure that you have the resources and the, all the tools to be able to make this powerful choice for yourself. So if that is something that would serve you, you can definitely go there as well, like careerevolve.com/business. Book a call with Olivia. She can give you all the information for that, get you signed up. And that's been a huge game changer for many of our clients to, be able to have a payment plan. And, while you're making that money, the exciting thing is like you're probably double, tripled that money by the time you're done paying for the payment plan, because while you're, making those increments of payments, you're already signing, 5-6 figure clients, which is really exciting. So, you can get started January 5th. You can get started today. You can get signed up to have a call with Olivia. Once again, just a reminder, you get these 5 key things, which is going to be massive for your journey. Once again, get lifetime access to the online course that I'll be crafting. It's going to be all the things that I've learned. I've spent multiple 6 figures, failed myself, gone through, the gauntlet to learn and refine and implement for myself. And I've done it, multiple times, which is why I know that it works. And I'm excited to share more, with you and have you implement for your business. So you get 6 one-on-one calls. So they're going to be bi-weekly over the 90 days. You're going to have a weekly group call, and the bonus of, the master class of landing speaking gigs, and then also the session, the one-on-one session with Olivia as well. So you can get started. You can go on the link there. And if you got any questions, you can definitely let us know.